The development of this project has been fueled mainly by my exploration of the connections between culture and identity. This interest came about due to my experiences as a child of two different cultures, trying to find my place amidst the many expectations and pull from both sides. The key ideas I've focused on are the formation of identity, cultural influences, and the freedom of identity. All are intrinsically linked, as I believe that the identity forms from a combination of environmental and personal influences, where environmental will include any cultural aspects that may affect the freedom of identity. The questions I wish to address are based on the key ideas. I want the audience to consider what influences our personal identity, how culture, religion, and language affect our identity, and whether culture has a positive or negative part in defining our identity. My project began with a very wide scope of research, where I studied acculturation and globalization. I explored how cultures interacted and affected one another on a global scale, which was informative but did not aid me in developing a visual language with which to communicate my topic. I focused this into a study of the Bahraini population, using a survey to identify the various cultures here and examine how they interact. Though the data showed that Bahrain had a multicultural community with mostly well-traveled and open-minded individuals, this brought me no closer to identifying my project direction. After studying this theme from an objective and global perspective, I decided to tackle it from a personal one and study my own experience. I would describe myself as trapped, unable to free myself from the constraints of my very traditional and very demanding culture, as it obscures and envelops my identity. This imagery of being trapped naturally led to the idea of breaking free, breaking the mold, and from that led to trials of breaking and reconstructing ceramics to redesign, represent, and reinvent. The idea that one can use this archetype for their culture to produce an original and individual identity was something I was interested in. I experimented with many techniques to break, make, and reconstruct ceramic work, including the art of kintsugi, a Japanese technique that repairs a broken ceramic without disguising the break, but beautifying it with a golden resin. The philosophy was one that honored the history of the piece, but also celebrated its new appearance. Among other techniques, I tried to stitch my ceramic pieces together using wire, as inspired by the work of Li Xiaofeng, who constructed dresses from ancient porcelain fragments. The idea of stitching the pieces together represented them as a different object now, more similar to a garment. The garment of cultural elements that envelop my identity could now be created and actually worn. My first instinct was to create a veil or headdress similar to that worn traditionally in the Arabian culture to cover a woman's head or face. Though an interesting idea, it proved to have many obstacles in practice. I attended a textile printing workshop where I created a pattern based on my project, using a rotation tessellation of broken fragments. This sparked an idea that I could use imagery of the broken ceramics without using ceramics. Thus, the broken fragments became the visual and not the medium. The intended outcome is a veil of one or more layers of fabric with varying translucency. These will be printed with the broken fragments and a number of patterns that reconnect to the cultural, lingual, and geographical symbols used in the previous trials. The layering would add another dimension to this piece, where the layers could create more or less obscurity of the face. This could lead to a performance, video, or animation of the continual layering of one veil over another, until the woman is no longer visible under the patterns and symbols of her culture.